Hello, everyone on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and anywhere else you might be watching this, whether you're watching live or watching the replay, whatever it is. We are so happy that you're able to join us today. I am here with Amber Fields. She is just an amazing person that I got the privilege of meeting. I'd say, was it at the beginning of the pandemic or right before the pandemic, maybe
Right
even?
before, right
Yeah,
before.
and I like to credit myself for the creation of Black UX Lab. Would that be fair? Probably not.
Might
I
be a bit of a reach,
but I
a
was
bit of
there
a
at the
reach.
beginning and saw what Amber was building, and it was absolutely amazing. So I don't know why this didn't happen earlier, but I'm so glad to have Amber on today to share a little bit of her story and the story of Black UX Labs, which I think is such a universal story that people can take away so much from this. Let me tell you a little bit about Amber before we get into it all. Amber is an experienced process driven UX or user experience for those Luddites like me, researcher and moderator. She's passionate about creating inclusive digital products and advocates for diverse teams in product development. A Louisville, Kentucky native, Amber is inspired by the people's champ, Muhammad Ali, to do it for the culture by creating connections and conversations among problem solvers and gatekeepers. As founder and CEO of Black UX Labs, a marketplace connecting Black and multicultural UX professionals to decision makers, the labs amplify Black and multicultural voices by challenging the community and companies to build products and breaking barriers. Amber has impacted decision making for companies including Amazon, Google, and Uber by uncovering blind spots with data from diverse consumers. When she is not collecting data, you can find Amber mixing your favorite 90s R&B or your latest women empowerment anthem at a rooftop near you. Welcome, Amber. I didn't know some of that stuff about you. That's so exciting.
I know I kind of sound fun. Like I sound
Yes, you
fun to be
do.
around.
So, Amber, you've been warned that we're going to have to get into this starting with the 6 and 60, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So,
I'm
we're
ready.
going to start with our rapid fire 60 seconds to answer six rapid fire questions. Are you ready
hmm
for that?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
And if you are watching us live or even on the replay, play along. Type in your answers to these questions. And here we go. Well, maybe I should start with a question first. I warned Amber I'm long winded.
I know. Give me your best
Here we
Steve
go. We'll
Harvey.
give her
I need
just
the
that.
question before.
Yeah, I think that's more fair. What is one thing that you would like to see stick around after this pandemic?
What's one thing I want to see stick around? I like Zoom. I want to see Zoom stick around. I want to see virtual connections being made ongoing. So if you can't get in person, that's okay. That doesn't mean you can't keep doing this. So I want to see Zoom stick around.
Love it. When you are feeling overwhelmed or burned out, what do you do to reset and recharge?
Walk. I walk.
Okay.
I live. I moved back to Kentucky, so I could be in grass. I went from New York City to Kentucky. I was like, I need the grass again. I need to smell the trees and all that. So I walk.
Awesome. Not on the treadmill, out in actual nature.
Outside.
That's
I'm in
awesome.
nature. I'm among the deer and the wild turkey.
That's
Like that's
awesome.
what's outside.
The wild turkey. That sounds dangerous. For those of us non-techies, can you
Yeah.
explain what UX is in 10 seconds or less?
Yeah, it's how you interact with the product. It's not necessarily what it solely what it looks like, but how you interact.
Ooh, that was good. One notable trait of your favorite boss of all time.
Of my favorite boss. Mm, assertiveness.
Ooh, I like
Assertiveness.
that. When you're not UXing, you're DJing. What's your the most influential song of all time for you?
Influential song. Okay, hold on. Wait a minute. That's a tough one. Now you've spoiled. It's something Beyonce, and I'll just say because Beyonce just dropped, we're gonna say "Plastic Off the Sofa" from Beyonce. That's an
Awesome.
influential song, a love song right there.
Awesome. My 5-year-old daughter's most influential song is probably Beyonce. Girls Run the World. It was the first time she
Girls
used
run the
that
world.
concept. Uh, best piece of advice or wisdom you've ever received?
Mm, best piece of
Yeah.
advice. It was, "Hey, hey." It was, I'll be honest, it was not really positive, it was negative, and it made me go after it. I
Huh.
had a director tell me once that nobody cares about Black women, and it punched me
Ah,
in my chest, and I was like, "Okay, bet. I'll show you otherwise."
that's
So,
amazing.
I'll
Does
be
that
honest,
mean
that's what it was.
does that mean from like a UX perspective?
It came from, yeah, whether or not we should take extra precautions for creating an experiential event. It was like I was kind of giving insights to say, hey, you might want to, Black women are more like this. We prefer a little bit of that. So you might want to build around that. And he was like, nobody cares about Black women. Like, that's the,
Wow.
and I said, oh, well, here we go.
I could
So
see how that
that
would motivate you.
that jumpstart a fire in me, if I'm honest, to say I'll build for them. So
That's amazing.
that's where we got
So
started.
so everything about you is amazing except for the fact that you totally flunked the 6 and 60, but that's fine.
I know
That's
you told me that, and I thought I could really do it. I couldn't do it. Can't do it.
it was my fault. We were talking in the middle. It's always my fault with the 6 and 60 as I told you. But now I want to really get into the meat of it, and I want to start with your story, if you feel comfortable sharing, because that's I if you could share with us, how does somebody just wake up one morning and say, "Hey, I'm going to start this organization for Black people in UX"? Seems very specific and like an odd
So
thing to wake up
specific.
to.
Okay, so after I was told that nobody cared about Black women, I told myself that I do. I was like, I'm okay to be the person in the room that does. I was given the opportunity to learn that there is this seat at the table that handles product development, that handles the creation of the things we use. And I hadn't had the opportunity to be in that room before. And so when that opportunity presented itself, I said, I'll join that room. I'll take that seat. And long story short, I ended up in UX and mainly broadcasting and showcasing that I was an advocate of the Black consumer. And I understood what they wanted, and I listened to what they wanted and brought those ideas to the table so that they could be included in the design. And I'll be honest, they were not included in the design. So
Yeah.
once I saw that there could be a change made in the beginning instead of like us always feeling the need to change something about ourselves so that something works better for us. I said, there's got to be an opportunity that, hey, Brittany, there's got to be an opportunity that gives you a chance to be seen and heard just as who you are.
Mm.
And when I got into UX, even though I had all this ambition in the world, kind of like the rabbit from Zootopia, I was in for a rude awakening that it was very much it was a barrier that was going to be hard to break because I was the only one in the room.
Mm.
So there's a process to that. There's a journey to that. It's a marathon for sure. So being in that space for so long by myself, I said, man, there's got to be some other Black people out here that are building
Right.
products. Like, we got to be able to talk shop and talk culture at the same time. So I looked around for it and I said, well, I'm not really seeing what I need or what I'm looking for. So I said, I'll create it. And I just started connecting the dots of people that I've met through my journeys because as a UX researcher before the pandemic, you got to travel often to many different cities and meet different people and different companies. And you slowly build a network of people who are um, very much like you in thought as far as,
Mm.
hey, I want to build, I want to make social impact. And then you also have the opportunity to meet people who are not like you. And they're like, no, I actually don't care about any of that. I just want to go do this. And they all fit in the same room. And so
Wow.
that was the start of Black UX Labs,
And
2019.
so when you're looking for people like you, there weren't many of them, right? In terms of Black UX, people, while there's that deep level diversity in terms of some people are there for the money and some people are there for the social impact,
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
the diversity of Black people within UX. I found this on your website. I think you said 3%. Is that
3%.
accurate?
3%. So black people make up 7% of the tech industry as a whole.
Wow.
UX is just a subset of that of tech, and we only make up 3%. And that number hasn't changed in 50 years. It's just
Wow.
been 50, I mean, it's been 3% for 50 years. And so when you think about the why behind that, especially as a researcher, I'm like, there's obviously a barrier here or a part of the system that is working exactly how they built it to work, and I'm about to go bust some stuff up in here.
Right.
Like, there needs to be a bit of a change. We need to shake some things up a bit, because when something works well for 50 years, it was built to work like that.
Right.
It's not broken. It's working exactly as it was been has been made
Hmm.
to run. And that's what I learned about being in UX. You were impacting how somebody is going to interact with the information that you're giving them. And I
Yeah.
said, what better way to be a part of the beginning or the creation of something like that, and give and then now have the opportunity to network and to collaborate and partner with other black and brown people who are in this space, regardless of where they stood on the spectrum. They're allowed to feel, how they feel about the space.
Right.
But I thought it was so amazing to have that authentic conversation to say, some days I'm here because I love it, and other days I don't know how I'm here because the
Hmm.
microaggressions are too much. And I
Right.
said there needs to be a space for those conversations to be had, because that's the reality of being at the beginning of a creation. Like, if you're a crafter, it is hard work. It is hard work. And sometimes you just need people around you to support just how mentally and emotionally impactful it can be to be in a space where there's only 3% of you.
Wow. And so often when we talk about diversity at work and inclusiveness at work, we're talking about the employee's perspective. Nobody wants to be the token. Nobody wants to come to work and not have their voice heard. But what's interesting to me is while you touched on that, you started at the place, the impact that quote of that person saying nobody cares about
Yeah,
Black women. You're starting at what we sort of throw in there as a benefit of diversity a lot without really thinking it through what that means.
yeah,
That when you are not diverse enough within your organization, you're only catering to one crowd. And I can imagine that within UX, like you're the people who know where I'm going to click and what I'm going
yep,
to read and
yep,
not read before I know it or without me even
exactly.
knowing it, right? So can you
Yeah,
talk about how important that is to have representation,
absolutely.
specifically within UX for that end customer
I will
or
say
end user?
yeah, as a UX researcher specifically, but in UX, we are basically like the consumer advocates. It's our job to be mindful of who the consumer is. But if your design table has and reflects the same perspectives, the same backgrounds, the same religion and politics, and like we talked about, if it all looks the same, you're only building for those people. There's no way you could be building for other consumers, because you're not even looking at them. You're not even bringing their ideas to the table. And the only way that that work can be done is if we are brought to the table. And the thing about where Black UX came in was, I kept hearing, I don't know where they are. Where are they?
Hmm.
I had another employer one time tell me we would be more diverse. I was the only Black woman in the company, the only Black woman, only Black person in the company.
Wow.
And he said I would hire more if I knew where they were. And
Hmm.
that was 2016, I heard that. And so
Wow.
here we are, 2020, the pandemic, and more employers are saying we can't find them. Well, let me help you, because they exist, we exist, we're here. I've got a community of people who are like, yeah, I'm interested in working on building this app or refining this website. But I guess I got tired of the excuse of, we don't know where they are, we can't find them, and that's such a specific role in product development, is to be a part of the research, to be a part of the design. You are you are putting and segmenting, not segmenting, but stamping in, like, this is going to be the system. This will be the process by which they experience every time. So if we are not diverse enough in the beginning to to carve out space for the different types of consumers, the different types of use cases and needs and motivations, that product will only ever work for those who are building it. And so it's so important for that space to be diverse, because not only are you going to reach more consumers, but you're going to, like, have a breadth and depth of skill sets at the table that you're not even probably going to know what to do with it, because everybody will bring a little bit of their own superpower to the table to build something so robust that it can't help but attract all different types of people.
Yeah, that's really powerful. There's if you know, even though it's so data driven what you do, it's impossible for me to fully disconnect from my own experiences and biases. And so if you don't have that diverse group, then you're not going to be able to truly connect in the same way. So it seems like it's in the best interest of the organizations, because who doesn't want to reach as many people as possible?
Isn't that why we're in business to begin with? Like, to reach people, to grow the business, to make some money. So it's like you're ignoring, again, when I heard my director say nobody cares about Black women, it was dismissive. It was, I'm ignoring this whole segment of people,
Yeah,
because that's more than I understand, and that's more than I'm willing to learn, is what I heard.
right.
And so I'm now realizing, like, if there isn't enough of us, the Ambers, the Jarvises, the Britneys, in those spaces, in those rooms, we will not impact the people who believe that it's too much work to put towards a certain segment of people. So I think there's a crazy time to be developing something like a community in space like this, because people are actually listening. You
Hmm.
know, it's not like I'm just twiddling my thumbs and we're just literally talking amongst ourselves at moments like at times. That's what we want. We want,
Yeah.
like, can we just get together and just talk about how hard this is? But these companies now are realizing there is value in diverse thought. Like, okay, they might, be slow to jump on the race wagon, so to speak. Like, well, you don't necessarily see why it's got to be all Black people or all Hispanics, because I've heard that too.
Yeah.
But they're starting to see the impact of diverse thought to the product. And so that's a business question, or question and objective that can be met by having diverse thought. And so that's what we're promoting, is like, these are superheroes that you're just completely overlooking and undervaluing. And if you would just give them an opportunity to be seen and heard, you will be mind blown by the fact that their journey, although will be completely different from yours,
Hmm.
has been as just as much as impactful to the way that they create as your experience has.
Wow. So there's a lot there. There's the you know, it's really encouraging for to hear you say that people are listening, that they're interested, because a lot of times we hear about burnout amongst you know, diversity officers and directors,
Yep,
and because they just have them there sort of as a signal to everybody that they're woke and doing the right thing, but
exactly.
they're not
I love you,
actually, you know.
David.
Right, but they just use them as sort of like a PR
Yep,
thing, and when
yep,
they
yep.
actually come with ideas, it's like um but
Yeah.
here you're saying that people are actually starting to listen.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
We've worked with LinkedIn. We've worked with Uber. For the UXers that might be listening, we've worked with D Scout. There are companies that are like, I see that I can make a difference, and I'm going to actually put forth that difference. And I'll be honest, the difference for a small Black business is funding, is
mhm,
access, is not just, don't just give me exposure, but give me the currency of exposure, give me the currency of sponsoring me, which really literally means pick me up and place me into the a point of advancement. And that is where I think Black UX can make the most difference because we are actively doing that on the inside. We're going to pick you up and put you in the space of these corporations to be seen and heard. Like, let's speed up the interview process. Let's get you building relationships rather than solely relying on putting your resume in the queue. So there's an opportunity there for Black UX to sponsor our community members by giving them the opportunity to be front and center of hiring managers, of recruiters, of other designers and UXers that might be on that team, some projects that they may be working on. Because let's be honest, tech right now is very much almost like the housing market. It is the
Huh.
seller's market. So you got as a company, you got to tell folk why they should want to work with you. It's
Mhm.
not necessarily like, oh my goodness, I have to go work with you. There are so many companies hiring for digital crafters, as I love to call UXers. They are looking for people like you to build brands and build products. So there's an opportunity for Black and Brown UXers to be seen and heard, but they're definitely waiting on the companies to share culture, to share initiatives, to share belonging activities. Like, how are you going to make me feel like I belong on this team? What are you willing to do to make sure that I'm seen and heard, that my ideas are seen and heard at the table? I mean, they're asking hard questions in these interviews, and it's making companies realize that they've got to do more than just salary. It's got to be bonus and equity. I'm
Right.
sorry to go on and on, but it can grow. But I think companies are realizing that they have to start with culture, and
Mhm.
um, with culture, with understanding how you're going to make somebody feel like they belong in your space, will ultimately attract more people who are looking for a space to belong or a space to thrive and be creative. If it's feeling like a factory,
Hmm.
they're not gonna do it.
Right.
They're not gonna do it.
And what an opportunity. I was speaking to somebody in technology the other day who was trying to build out more of, um, like compensation type transactional rewards. And when I was digging into it with her, I said, I was uncovering the fact that they have all these other things where people feel like they're part of a community and they're in tech and they're like moderate sized business in tech. So I asked
Mhm.
them, if you want to start with all the monetary stuff and make it very transactional, how long are you going to compete in the tech industry? Like, people can steal people away in a second if you're doing that.
Yep.
You need
Yep.
those things, but continue to focus on the culture piece, that piece, and the sense of belonging. If
And
you
the sense of
find that,
belonging.
aren't you more likely to want to stay?
Yeah. Or you're at least more likely to want to create.
Mm,
Now I can't speak to stay because there's too many factors moving around as far as what is making us want to, like the retainment piece,
yeah,
the retention.
yeah,
But I will say that you'll get the best out of us for that time being, if that
yeah,
makes sense. Like, you give me a space to be this creative that I am. Don't put me in so many, blockers that I'm unable to thrive and show you where my brain, how I've been able to craft a solution. And I will say that because of tradition, I feel in UX, solutioning has its guardrails
mm,
that I don't think always empowers um, crafters. It
mm,
can be too limiting at times. And so, one thing I have noticed or heard too among the community is that there are moments when we're not able to grow, we're not able to create, we're not able to solution the way that makes sense to us. Quickest way to lose somebody. Now you tell
yeah,
me that I can't even get out the box to just a little bit, just to come back in, not to stay out there, but like give me a chance. We're creatives.
right,
So I will say I've seen that negatively impact retention is for a creative not to feel like they have the space to fly.
right,
But then for those who say, I'm a new mom, which I'm a new mom, but I've heard new moms say, New mom, they're giving me the work life balance that I need. They're giving me opportunity to be a part of different ERGs. Like, oh, they see you as a whole person.
Right. Right.
And so no wonder you feel safe there. No wonder you feel grounded there. No wonder you feel like you are able to thrive there because you are being met as the whole person, the whole creative that you are.
Right.
And that's where companies are competing these days, is truly understanding the holistic crafter.
Right. Right. But not only are they going to do better there and want to perform there and hopefully stick around a little bit longer there, but they're also going to talk about it, like you said, and you just gave them a megaphone, like to talk about the organizations that are doing it right.
Yep.
So in such a tight labor market, it seems like this is this is incredible for recruiting. Just do the right thing,
Just do the right thing.
right?
Like, do the right thing, get out of your own way. Because I am, as the founder of Black UX Labs, companies do come to me like, we're losing Black people, like we're losing leaders, and we're losing the opportunity for Black leadership. And so I'm like, not only are we offering like recruiting services, like, hey, here's access to our community, but there's also retention coaching that comes along with Black UX. That
Mm,
you have this enterprise coaching that allows companies to really understand where in product development the friction is. Because if you're losing leaders in there's something that the culture may need to be, where it needs to be reevaluated. And then there's some history that goes along with that. At times companies don't want to talk about it, but race doesn't have to be a scary topic.
right.
It could just be more enlightening. And if we listen to each other, there's an opportunity to learn what not to do. But sometimes we're so scared to learn the true, or listen. I won't even say just learn, but listen to one another, that we block our opportunities for having those diverse teams. Because now, if I don't feel like, if I David, let me give you an example. At every company, there's always a game that involves music, always, as some sort of icebreaker.
Hmm.
And let's say, for instance, you're sharing like, what's the top greatest song in the world? Like, you asked me,
Hmm.
what song makes you, like the staple song right now. And I will say that it always ends up being awkward for Black people. Every time. It's always awkward. Because we are met with the idea of the majority's idea around what is classic music.
Hmm.
We are met with the majority's idea that, no offense to any of these groups, but like a U2 or the Eagles or Billy Joel, like
Right.
that, we are met with, this is our idea of classic. So your idea of classic is not really classic to us. That's
Right.
just urban. That's just secondary. And the
Right.
the, the issue is, let's say I'm asked like, who's the most influential person, in music right now, and I just threw out like some rapper that nobody knows. He's not going to be considered as a classic because that group, the majority, doesn't see them as such.
Right.
And so a lot of times I notice where, if any type of activity like that were to happen on a team, take the time out to learn the different favorite songs of some of your team members. Because when you have Asian counterparts, Hispanic counterparts, we all have like, that's nowhere across the same. So that's just one step towards inclusion, where you can be like, let me, if we're going to play a game, I'm going to make sure everybody feels like they're being seen or heard.
Right.
And like, for me, it would be like, a staple song would be like an Aretha Franklin. So if somebody says, who sings "Sing a Little Prayer for You," I'd be the first person to jump up like Aretha. But
Right.
those moments don't happen when, a lot of times on teams, culturally speaking,
Right.
it is seen from the majority, and you have to go along to get along. You're like, oh, Billy Joe, how did I miss that one? When
Right.
in actuality, you might not even know the song.
Right. Right. That's it's so interesting because we think of teams, we have to point out our similarities, right? To have everybody really conform and feel like we're all a team. But I find that the most inspirational part about teams is how diverse they can be, right? And so what you're saying is highlight the diversity
Highlight.
within the team. Look at the breadth of experience that we have on this team, and
Yeah.
let's appreciate how different we are and how that strengthens us as a team.
Yeah.
That's
Because then you're also considering your consumer. And I told you, as UXers, we are consumer advocates, we're consumer focused, we're consumer driven.
right.
And so a lot of times that means we've got to come at almost every possible angle and scenario that a consumer might experience while using our product. But
Hmm.
if your experience is only and solely your experience, just like mine, I won't be able to impact all the different nooks and crannies and blind spots.
Right.
I'll need somebody else with a different experience to shed light on what we're missing. And you only make a better product when you have somebody, multiple people. I don't mean just one Black person. I mean multiple
Right.
thoughts, multiple seats of diversity to see and uncover blind spots so that you can make the best product possible.
Yeah. I could see companies sort of focusing on this and then missing the mark a bit, where as the sole Black person on the team being like, okay, Amber, and what's the Black woman perspective on this, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is, that is the danger of being the only Black person on the
Right.
team or only person of color on your team. You are going to be asked questions that can just seem so like, really? Really?
Right.
You asked me that?
Right.
Um, which can feel like microaggressions. Like it really can.
Right.
It's not, but there's a way to do things with taste. There's a way to do things with, uh, what's the word I want to use? Taste
Like tact.
and tact, but
Yeah.
also like a certain sense of gentleness
Mm.
that needs to be used in moments like that because race always tends to be very aggressive. It always like makes people uncomfortable. People start sweating, nobody wants to talk. Like it's
Mm.
always that.
Right.
But if it comes from a place of, hey, I'm looking to learn from you, I'm looking to understand because there are certain questions, like I said, if you were to ask a music question, like, hey, what's your top 5 songs of, ever?
Right.
There's no bias in that question. You're not leading. And maybe as a UX researcher, that comes organically where you can't lead those types of questions. You leave it open-ended so people can then again creatively fly.
Mm.
Give them the space to be honest with you. But if you tell them that your idea of the top 10 songs, now pick 5 of them, well, now I'm limited. Now
Right.
I'm unable to tell you truly how I feel because you've told me how I'm supposed to feel.
Right.
So there's a delicacy. That's the word I was looking
Mm.
for. There's a delicacy to um, retention, I
Yeah.
believe. And that's because you play the dance of, I got to manage, I got to lead, but I also have to find my team's groove. Like where do you shine? And at Black UX, we talk about having our superpowers and understanding what that superpower is so that that manager, director doesn't truly have to guess where you thrive. Like when you know who you are, and what you stand for, what you build. Like for me, I'm a UX researcher that loves to dig into screeners, how we ask questions. When I bring that to a table, my manager doesn't have to guess where I'll be the best. Now, I'll be honest, I might not always be the first one to speak up about my weaknesses, but I will
Right.
definitely tell you my strengths.
Hmm.
So I'll tell you where I'll thrive. And that relationship, though, comes from a certain delicacy and dance between a manager and their employee, especially when they're people of color.
Right. So there is this sensitivity to this conversation. And recently we had Tammy Triolo on, and Tammy talks a lot about where it is appropriate or not for a white voice, right? Or where we should just give space. Um, so you invited me to one of the early, um, I guess, weekly
Uh
meetings or
huh.
something, right?
We
And
have
I
yeah, monthly.
monthly meetings. So it's
Mm-hmm.
to Black UX Labs. I'm not Black, and I don't even know what UX is. Now I know a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more through you, but
Mm-hmm.
so. when I got in the room, I noticed that I'm not the only white person in the room, that you do invite allies in and experts and people that are either, uh, for me, IO, but also people like within leadership, within UX, people that can really speak to what's happening in the room, and regardless of their skin color.
Yeah.
But was that a difficult decision to make? Because it seems that part of what Black UX Labs is a safe place for emotional support. And so, how much does the conversation have to feel safe and closed versus being open to allyship?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I'll be honest, I didn't struggle with deciding whether or not to let allies in because the ultimate goal for Black UX Labs and value of Black UX Labs is sponsorship. Like,
Mm,
who is going to see you? Because at the time, remember, we're starting during the pandemic, people are at home, they are in their apartments. They've moved back home with their parents, i.e., me. Like I was in a space where no one could see me. There were no networking events anymore, and it
right.
seemed like a slow enough time for us to give opportunity to showcase and highlight other people like myself. And I had no problem letting white people come in. I thought to myself, if these allies and hiring managers and recruiters see value in these individuals on this call,
Mm,
I've just eliminated two steps. Like I've
mhm,
eliminated the let me go searching for a job. I've eliminated let me like send a cold email to that hiring manager or recruiter. I've eliminated those
mhm,
two steps because now I've just introduced you all to each other. And there were people that were definitely built relationships and were hired off of those monthly meetings like that. So
right.
definitely didn't have a problem there. But I will say it came up a couple times where people are like, I need a vent.
Right.
Amber, I need a vent. Like when do we have a space for us again? And we found that through other avenues or other events that were geared towards more just community, like, hey community, come kick it, let's chat. This is not for the companies this week. I was very honest, like this is for us by us. We just need this right now.
Mm,
So I had to create both, if
yeah.
I'm honest. Clubhouse, I felt like let me have that space of just like, can we just chat? We had like, well, we started doing UX after dark, and it was just like talking, nothing crazy, but it was just like just talking about things that like what where dreamers and believers go. Like we tend to
Mm,
just be everywhere, and we just let them have that space. Like, what are you thinking this week? How are you feeling? What do you want to create? What do you want to do in life? And I felt like, again, with Black UX, I just wanted to talk shop and culture. It couldn't always be about work, but I didn't want to feel like my culture was just so far removed from the conversation all the time that nobody could relate. I
right.
wanted to be able to talk about um, music without feeling like now I got to explain who this rapper is, or I have to explain what certain words are, certain colloquialisms. I'm not in the mood today to explain.
Right.
Like I just want to talk. So, so yeah, I think I, I did both. I tried to manage both, and I didn't realize it was going to be both and at the time when I started it. But that's where it grew, and I was okay with that because I know how to maneuver in both rooms. So I was like,
Yeah.
let's go.
It's so fascinating. So like your what I love about this, and I haven't checked back into your website in a while, and then I was there recently preparing for this talk, and the way it's blown up into it, there's so many different avenues uh, where Black UX Labs is playing so many different roles. I love the idea that you are able to play the role of building community. And that's where people like me might not be invited into the room, but
Might not.
also,
Might
right?
not.
But but also building like on the issue solving side of it and allyship side of it as well. I think that's really cool that you do that. But even more than that, right on your website, you really push the connection, between people hiring and people looking for work. You're really doing the actual hard work well beyond the talk and emotional support, which is hard work too, but the very strategic work of creating this space to connect employers and employees. And then you also have the brand assessment. Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the pipeline that we've created here at Black UX Labs has to continue to move. And we do so by helping out juniors and graduates of recent boot camps, transitioners into UX, who might just need a little bit of grooming as far as getting their paperwork, their documentation. That's your resume, your LinkedIn profile, and your UX portfolio, if you have one, getting those documents in order to align with, again, the skill sets, your superpowers that best highlight you. What happens is a lot of people are excited to move into this space, but they're just not sure once they've taken once they've done the boot camp, once they've gotten the certificate and, graduated from school. Now, how do I actually get the job? Like, how do I land the job? And there is a process to it. And so we started offering brand assessments to help people realize this is kind of like the infrastructure and the structure that you need in order to just be taken serious
Mm,
at times in the interview process. Not that this is, we're not going to give you like all the answers to all your problems, of course,
right.
but we can at least point you in the direction of this is what they expect. And they, meaning hiring managers and decision makers, if you want to get past just that initial phone call, if you want to make it to interview number three, if you want to make it to an offer, this is what the expectations are. And so brand assessments were set up so people could say, hey, here's all my documents. Please let me know what you think, where I need to make some tweaks, and we send it back. And hope that, if they need consultation after that, they can ask, like request one of our UX mentors or leaders to help them out. But most times we've given them so much information that they're like, I got it. I know exactly what I need to do. It's very tangible and actionable. So I'm proud of that too.
How cool is that? So how do you balance all of this? Because you're working within the Black UX community, you're working with external companies, right? You're doing the calls, you're doing the job connections and the mentorship, and and then you also have a brand new baby, and you like, I mean, that's a lot, and you've got like a full-time job, right? So like, how does that all, and you DJ, like, how do you do that? And were you expecting this to grow so big so fast?
I'll be honest, I just to go back to where we started in this conversation. I was lonely. I felt like I wasn't being heard or seen in different spaces. And I needed that because I've been remote for a long time, but before remote was remote, like I was remote. So there, as much as tech has its advantages and benefits, you don't have to leave your house, you don't have to leave your space, and that can not always be the most uh, collaborative or creative space to be in. Sometimes you need, the voices of other people or the ambiance and environment of activity and thought and excitement. And so um, I created Black UX for so many reasons, but based on just that isolation and that loneliness. And so every time I think like, oh my gosh, it's so much work, like my son's like crying, or work is like, hey, we need you to really dive deep into this, or hey, you got a DJ gig you need to do. I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I know that I have to keep going because when I needed that, when I needed somebody to talk to, Black UX was that for me. And so that's I realized that how important that is to me now that I'm older and I am a mother. Like I don't have to dig too deep to even talk mommyhood, with other people. I
Right,
don't have to because the reality is of being a new mother, you are in the house. You are in the house.
right,
So
right.
I'm remote and I'm in the house.
Hmm.
Because I have no choice.
Yeah.
So I need community, and it's there, and I will continue to nourish it, and I will continue to water it, and I will continue to listen, so that I can give the best experience for those moments where people are just lonely and they need motivation and they need inspiration. And to be honest, DJing makes me feel creative. So
Hmm.
I don't feel like it's something like, oh, how do I fit it in? Because I'm going to fit it in. Because
Yeah.
if I don't have that moment to fly, then I will be stagnant. So DJing, whether I get to leave or if I just do it from my house and record right here and post it online, um, that's what I'll do. But it gives me the creative outlet that I need that I'm sometimes don't get at work. So yeah, I need all the things. As much as crazy as life is,
Right.
I need all the things to thrive. I need all of
I
it.
love it. I love it. So you've expanded so quickly with Black UX Labs. What's the future? Where do you see it going?
So I definitely see advisory, more of us in the C-suite conversation.
Hmm.
Again, a part of that decision making. Like I see us a part of something that, again, the majority just aren't able to see on their own.
Right.
Um, and I think of an advisory council, an advisory board is something that would help out a lot of companies, especially like as you can, very similar to you, David, as in IO. UX is just, it's not going to stop. It's only going to continue to grow. This industry is only going to continue to expand. And at times there's going to be a need to help understand the growth, to help understand the movement. And I think Black UX will definitely be able to be a part of that conversation at the beginning. Remember, I promote the beginning of the funnel. I think that having that advisory with different companies will give us again the exposure and the opportunities to be seen and heard, but also make like serious impact to products and product development. So I see that on the business side, but on the other side, I see a very awesome conference, but
Hmm.
very intimate. Like I don't know if I need the big conference. I think I need more of like, hey, let's truly get to know each other. Let's be a
Right.
part of something so robust that we talk about work and food and travel and kids and family and
Yeah.
sports and all love, where we get to know each other as people so that we can maybe create that culture that we hope to see at different companies. We'll be able to take it with us because we know what it looks like. So almost like a
That.
culture, I don't know, a cultural dinner or something, like a cultural retreat, I guess.
Yeah.
So we're still working on that. We're still working on
Yeah.
that.
Retreat sounds awesome. That's that sounds a little bit less like conference has this connotation. I
Yeah,
like I like the idea
yeah,
of the retreat.
more of a retreat.
How
We
cool is
need it. Turn our brains off for a second.
that? So if you would like to get an invite to this retreat, or
Right.
more importantly, if you are an organization that's very interested in the things you talked about and there's thinking, yeah, we do need more diversity, we need more people, period. We need to work on our retention of uh, black and brown and other marginalized people. Um,
Yeah.
how can they get in touch with you?
So David has placed this lovely QR code here on the screen. Go ahead and take a picture of that really quick on your phone. Yeah,
There you
lift that camera up. Let's see, I'm going to get mine. And we're going to take a picture. Okay. So it should take you right to the Find Black UX website. Go ahead and click. Are you a job seeker? Are you a hiring manager? Fill out that form, and one of our UX leaders will be in touch with you. You can post a job within our newsletter. So, again, we're very intimate. It's not all about quantity, but more about quality with us. And so, post to our newsletter if you are looking to hire, and our community members will get it right away. They can apply right away through our newsletter. So let me know if you're interested moving forward. For anybody who wants to be a part of the community, like just wants to hang out, feel free to still add at the bottom of our website. You can submit your contact information and you'll be a part of our newsletter. But you can also follow us on Instagram at Black UX Labs, where we definitely talk and joke there. Or you can follow us on LinkedIn on our business page, and you'll find more information about our events and then just what's going on with us, what opportunities we have coming our way in partnerships. So, David, I
Awesome.
really appreciate this. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thank you. And if they're just looking for a DJ,
If
That's
you're looking for a DJ, you can follow me on SoundCloud or
ooh.
TikTok at DJ B Sweet. It's the letter B Sweet. Can I put it in the chat here? Will it actually appear in the chat for everybody?
Um, Not on the chat. Hang on.
Okay, okay,
We'll put it on the chat within the windows for sure. We'll put a
okay.
link in there.
All right. So
And
yeah, DJ Be Sweet, guys. I'm here to be sweet to yourself. That is what it stands for. Be sweet to
awesome.
yourself.
Awesome. This is cool. Brittany is right now
Hey,
building her
Brittany.
new brand. And so
Awesome.
that's cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We're going to come right back to you, but I want to let everyone know what's happening next time, 2 weeks from now, on September 7th. We're going to have Rabbi Shlomo Buxbaum on here. He's an author of the book, The Four Elements of an Empowered Life. And we're going to be talking about something really interesting, which is right now with post pandemic, people are really losing their way with work. They're not finding meaning like they used to at work. Quiet quitting is something that's being talked about a lot. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation where we're going to be talking about work as calling, a spiritual look at the changing nature of work. Definitely won't want to miss that one. Amber, you have been amazing. Thank you for being everything that I promised them you would be. And I hope people will reach out and connect with you directly.
Yes, thank you so much, David. I really appreciate the opportunity, the platform. The water cooler talk is everything I expected it to be and more. Thank you so much for such a seamless experience from start to finish. I really respect you and the work that you're doing, and I hope for us to stay, connected. But I really appreciate this opportunity.
For sure, you got it. And thank you all for tuning in live. For those of you who are tuning in on the replay, please continue to comment and ask questions. We'll definitely monitor those and stay connected with you all. Thank you all. See you next time.
Thanks, guys.